There's a strain out there that has a reputation that's so heavy they didn't name it after a plant, or a flavor, or a place. They named it after the most feared mob boss in movie history, the Godfather. And it earned that name by doing something that no other strain had ever done before, which is testing so high in THC that it got crowned the strongest weed on earth. This is the story of Godfather OG, the dawn of all OGs. And fittingly for a strain named after a crime boss, its beginnings are a total mystery. Godfather OG came up out of the cutthroat Southern California medical scene in the early 2010s, that OG Kush-obsessed dispensary world that was cranking out dozens of new OG strains every year. In a scene moving that fast, with that many growers all chasing the next big thing, this one slipped out without anybody clearly putting their name on it. To this day, no single breeder or seed bank has a clean claim to inventing it, and even the big strain databases just throw up their hands and list the breeder as unknown. So unlike a lot of famous strains, there is no genius breeder at the center of this story. The plant basically just appeared and earned its reputation on its own. But even if we can't trace who made it, we can trace what it's made of. And that's where the three legends from the title come in. But just so y'all know, even this part is a little debated, with a couple of competing recipes out there. The version you'll see listed most often is a cross of two OG strains, XXXOG and Alpha OG. But the lineage tied to that record-breaking plant is a three-way blend of three absolute heavyweights, Cherry Pie, Granddaddy Purple, and OG Kush. And each one brings something different to the mix. OG Kush is the absolute backbone of West Coast weed, the strain that traveled from Florida to Los Angeles back in the 1990s and became the foundation for a huge chunk of modern cannabis. And it carries that classic gas, pine, and earth flavor. Granddaddy Purple blew up in 2003 thanks to a Bay Area grower named Ken Estes, and it lends that grape candy smell, those deep purple buds, and a heavy, sleepy weight. And Cherry Pie, which is itself a cross of Granddaddy Purple and Durban Poison, folds in a sweet, tart cherry note on top. Put all three together, and you get a strain with classic OG gas down low and sweet grape and berry up high, which is a pretty unusual and downright delicious combo for something this heavy. You might also run into one other recipe listing the parents as Bubba Kush, LA Confidential, and Granddaddy Purple. But no matter which version you believe, every road leads straight back to that elite OG Kush family. And with genetics that royal, it makes sense they gave it a name to match. Godfather OG is pure mob movie iconography, a straight tribute to the 1972 classic, The Godfather. In that world, the Godfather is the Dion, the boss of all bosses, the most powerful and respected man at the table, the one nobody dares cross. So slapping that name on a strain is basically declaring it the boss of the entire OG family, the heaviest and most dominant one of the whole bunch, which is exactly where the nickname the Dawn of all OGs comes from. It's a flex, a promise that this strain is going to dominate you, and it's so on the nose that reviewers can't help tossing out movie quotes whenever they describe it. And for a long time, it backed that promise up with a number nobody could touch. Back in 2017, High Times dropped their strongest strains on Earth list, pulled together from lab data at their 2016 Cannabis Cups, and sitting right at the very top was Godfather OG, clocking in at a jaw-dropping 34.04% THC. That number shattered the old Cannabis Cup record of 32.13% held by a strain called Chem Dog, and just like that, Godfather OG got crowned the strongest strain in the world. Except that 34.04% was never quite as simple as it sounded. And this is the part almost nobody mentions. High Times spelled it out right there in the article, calling it an activated THC value. What that means is they ran a formula that takes the raw THCA in the plant, the acidic form of THC that exists before any heat touches it, and calculates the absolute maximum THC it could possibly turn into. Once you spark it, then adds that to the THC already active in the flower. So it isn't the THC actually sitting in the bud, it's the theoretical ceiling after the whole thing gets heated up. High Times themselves even called it a somewhat conservative way of measuring. The number is real, and a real lab tested it, but it carries one massive asterisk. And that asterisk opens up a much bigger problem with these sky-high THC numbers across the entire industry. Researchers have pulled weed straight off dispensary shelves, tested it, and found the actual THC running dramatically lower than the label promised, sometimes by 20 or 30% or more. There is even a name for the scam: lab shopping, where growers keep sending their product around until some lab hands back the biggest number, because a fat THC percentage moves units. Scientists who study the plant mostly agree the real physical ceiling for THC in flower sits somewhere around 35%, so anything claiming much higher deserves a seriously raised eyebrow, which puts Godfather OG in an honest light. Its 34% was a real, documented competition result, but it was also riding and helping fuel a giant industry-wide hype machine built around numbers that often do not mean much. But that record actually overshadows the fact that Godfather OG had already proven itself years before. Back at the 2013 High Times Medical Cannabis Cup in Los Angeles, it took home the prize for Best Indica. So this wasn't some one-hit wonder that got lucky with a single lab test. It had been quietly racking up hardware and building its name for years before that record-breaking number ever made headlines. And honestly, if you strip away the numbers and the awards completely, the strain still earns its reputation the hard way. Godfather OG is an indica-dominant hybrid, and real-world dispensary flower usually tests somewhere in the low to high 20s for THC, which is still seriously strong even without all the record-breaking hype. The smell and flavor deliver exactly that family blend: loud OG gas, pine, and damp earth, with a peppery kick and that unmistakable sweet grape and berry note from the granddaddy purple and cherry pie side. Myrcene runs the show on the terpene front, and that's the exact compound most tied to deep, heavy, couch-locking sedation. The buds come dense and chunky, forest green with purple hints under a thick coat of frost. And the high is a pure knockout, opening with a quick rush of euphoria to the head before crashing down into a deep, total body sedation that glues you to the couch and, for a lot of people, sends them straight to sleep. That's why it became such a go-to for insomnia, chronic pain, and appetite, and why just about everybody agrees this is a nighttime only, not for beginners kind of strain. And all of that is why Godfather OG ended up standing for something way bigger than just one strain. For years, it was the benchmark, the heavy hitter every other heavy hitter got measured against. The actual answer when somebody asked what the strongest weed in the world was. It was also one of the last great champions of the OG Kush dynasty, right before the dessert strains like gelato and runts swept in and took over the menus. But its biggest legacy is that it became the face of the cannabis THC arms race. That 34% headline helped turn a 30% plus number into a badge of honor and a marketing weapon. And it kicked off a sprint where strains like Future Number 1 and Brownie Scout started claiming even bigger numbers, both eventually claiming north of 37%. It is the exact race scientists now slam as mostly inflated and pretty much meaningless to how good the high actually feels. So that is the real story of Godfather OG, a strain with mysterious origins, built from three legends in OG Kush, Granddaddy Purple, and Cherry Pie, wrapped up in mob movie branding that got crowned the strongest weed on earth on the back of a record-breaking number that turned out to be a lot more complicated than the headlines made it sound. It is a genuine heavy hitter that absolutely earns its knockout reputation, and at the same time, it is the perfect symbol of an industry obsessed with chasing the biggest possible number. The dawn of all OGs, exactly like the name promised. So what about you? Have you ever been put straight to sleep by some Godfather OG? And do you even trust those crazy high THC numbers? Let me know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this one, do me a favor and hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives like this one, and I'll catch y'all in the next one.